Hello, and welcome to another episode of Capsule RX Podcast. Today, I'll be your host, Dr. Jovan Lazo, and today we have a intriguing guest, one that I literally just met. A little bit different than people that we normally interview, but this person, I noticed some of her content on Instagram, and I thought she'd be a great guest for us to have on. And I'm super excited to have her on today and super thankful that she was willing to be interviewed by some random podcast that she never heard of. So we appreciate it, Libby. So to kind of start off, can you kind of give us a brief introduction about who you are and kind of describe what your IG profile at Learn with Libby is all about?
Yeah, so thanks for having me again. Really happy to have this conversation with you today. So I'm Libby Shelton. I am a P4 student at Purdue University. And so my P2 year, I started Learn with Libby. I originally thought that, I'm going to be graduating soon. I need to be reviewing content and stuff. And I was like, I want something that lets me be creative. So I thought I was going to make these amazing infographics about all the different disease states and medications we were learning about, and it was going to be a great way to review. Well, then the semester hit and things got a little busy. And I was like, that takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I can't really keep up with that. But what I can do is I can share my life, my story, and hopefully inspire others and teach them a little bit through my own mistakes, my own successes. So that's kind of what I do with Learn with Libby.
Perfect. Yeah. And I love that concept because a lot of us, there's so many things that we want to do. And maybe when we first try doing it, we don't succeed and then we stop. But you kind of pivoted and it was like, okay, this just wasn't the healthiest for me lifestyle wise. Let me try to figure out a way to still do what I want to do, but do it in a way that I enjoy it to where it's not forced. It doesn't feel like work. It still feels like a fun hobby. So I kind of love how you did that there. So you kind of touched upon this, but if you want to dive in a little deeper, what made you really decide to be an IG content creator?
I've always been a creative person, and I felt like throughout pharmacy school, I was so busy, trying to add things to my CV, trying to have those leadership positions that I wasn't really doing something for me that was like fun and
Yeah.
getting back to like that creative spirit I have. So with that, I was like, I'm usually a pretty shy person, believe it or not. And so I was like, I don't know if, having this like platform on social media is for me. But I felt that I had something to offer there. And
Mm-hmm.
so I started doing it. And so far it's been good. I get a lot of good feedback from others. They find the content valuable. I love making it. It's a fun, creative outlet for me. So yeah, that's kind of why I decided to start. I needed something that was just for me and allowed me to be creative in expressing myself.
And hearing you say that actually makes me think back about something me and one of the original co-hosts that I worked with, Sean, how we really enjoyed the podcast because we got to be creative. Like this is the one thing where we can kind of do whatever we want, right? Within
Yeah.
pharmacy, just because sometimes when it comes to medications, you got to get either the prescriber, whether it's the doctor, the nurse practitioner to approve the med. If it's certain things that are going on, there's guidelines, there's different protocols within a hospital. So it's like a lot of it can be structured, and it's like sometimes you just want to you want to be a little free and
Yeah.
be creative with things, and it's like it just gets your creative juices flowing with the podcast, and that's why we really enjoy that. And hearing you say that reminds me of the conversations I've had with others, and so I could see the joy when you're expressing that. And so hopefully anybody that's watching on YouTube can see that too when you're talking about how even though you're shy, like this just brings you so much joy,
Mhm.
creating content and being able to allow your creativity to really shine, because you definitely have a gift. Like just
Thank
just
you.
well, you're welcome, but it's a fact. So it's like some of the content I just want to share that I personally really liked that you posted on Instagram was one of them was definitely the EASE, so the early activities, summarize and evaluate. That was referencing how to I believe how to
Yeah.
study. And then another one was like the one that actually got me to reach out to you was a very, very, very funny clip on IG where you're just kind of talking about the different things that we're told coming into pharmacy school, right?
Mhm.
So we're
Yeah.
being told we have to have the straight A's, we got to work like 3, 4 jobs, we got to be a part of every student organization, and
Yeah.
that's how you're going to get the job or the residency or the fellowship, et cetera, et
Mhm.
cetera. And then you're
Yeah.
just like, don't. And the
No.
video just cuts. And I completely agree.
Yes.
I completely agree with that. That's something that I've always been preaching, and I believe that it's important that we all understand that you got to do what you're capable of, and you should do a little bit of try, your best with the grades. If you can have a job,
Mhm.
that's great. If you can do a couple student works, that's great. But don't try to kill yourself doing all these things that you think is necessary to get to the next level. Because trust me, I'm at the next level and I didn't do all those things.
Yeah.
So you don't need it.
It definitely took some realization to realize that when I was struggling to do it all, I wasn't sleeping, I was getting sick constantly. Like things were not looking up for me. Like on the outside, like it looked great
Yeah.
because I was doing all the things, and everyone's like,
Yeah.
"How do you do it all? How do you do it all?" And I'm like, I'm suffering on the inside. Y'all just don't see
Mm-hmm.
that part. But like
Mm-hmm.
this is not healthy. And I always tell my mentees, they're like, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to have a really good pharmacy application. And I'm like, no, you've covered all your bases. You got one leadership position, you have work experience, you've covered all the bases. You don't need to keep adding in those areas. You're doing the
Mm-hmm.
things. Like,
Yeah.
please enjoy your time while you're in undergrad. Because when you get to pharmacy school, it's a little different. So please enjoy that time and the time you have with the friends that maybe aren't in pharmacy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of just what I preach because I have been there. There was one year I was just really sick every month, and I
Yeah.
knew that was not sustainable.
No, 100%. I've been there too. I would sleep like 3, 4 hours. Like everybody's like, when do you sleep? You're doing all these activities. I was like, I don't. I sleep like 3, 4 hours a night.
Exactly.
And I just wasn't happy, and finally kind of switching it up and being like, all right, I'm going to sleep more. I'm going to start working out, do different things to be physically healthy. And then also to improve my mental health, I'm going to start reading books. I'm going to start taking walks, take breaks. Like, all right, 9 p.m. If I don't know by 9 p.m., oh well. Test comes, whatever it
It's not
is,
happening.
whatever the
It's
answer
not
is. I hope I can guess correctly. Because
Yep.
exactly right. Just because it's like at what, like, why are we making these type of sacrifices that are unhealthy for us? If we're in a profession where we should be preventing disease states and helping optimize therapy, why would we want to harm ourselves to do that? And that's not what
Yeah.
the goal is. It's to make sure we're living a healthy life, and we're also kind of preaching that to our patients, like lead by
Mhm.
example, not just with our words. So actions definitely speak value.
I 100% agree. Yes.
Yeah. Now, do you have any content on other platforms besides IG?
So I tried to do a little TikTok thing in the summer. My thing with TikTok is I feel like it takes a lot of time and a lot of energy. I'm very comfortable with Instagram. I know when you get
Okay.
outside your comfort zone, you grow a lot and you learn a
Yeah.
lot. But at the moment, I do not have time for TikTok. So we're
Yeah.
keeping it to Instagram until we get a bit more time on our hands to sort of fully explore what TikTok has to offer for me. I
Got
have
it.
like a boss who I did social media for one of the offices on campus, and she's
Really?
like, "You need to be on TikTok. You need to be on TikTok.
Yeah.
You can make so much money." And I was like, "Okay, Joe, I hear you, but I don't have time for that right now. So we're just gonna focus on what we know and then maybe come
Hmm.
back to
Yeah.
it."
Yeah. Like I get told that too. And I'm just like, I'll pass for now. For now, we'll see. We'll see. It's going to be a lot of time and effort, like you said, and you have fun creating it, but you also want to make sure you put out good content, right? Like a good
Yes.
product. So the time to get that, like I downloaded TikTok, I think like 2 weeks ago, and I looked at it like a week ago, and I was like, whoa, there's a lot of things you could do here. I'm
Yes.
like, geez, I'm gonna have to take like a course on how to operate this social media, because this is just to another level.
Yes.
But I definitely do think that if you were to do it, you would excel at it, and you'll definitely have our support. Anything we could do to share that content, we would definitely do. So I hope
Mhm.
you do it, because I think it could reach out to more people, and that's kind of like one of the reasons why we have a podcast. And one of the things that I believe we both kind of share is wanting to help others, right? And
Yes.
so like being able to be on sometimes different platforms gives you that opportunity. So maybe when you have a little free time, because I know you're on rotations right now, you're doing a lot. So maybe when you have some more free time, you'll be able to do that.
Mhm. Yeah, that definitely is the goal, to sort of expand my reach and
Mm,
be able to help more individuals. So definitely looking forward to that when I have the time, working within my capabilities, in my
exactly.
capacity.
Yep. Now, I don't know if we said this, but what pharmacy school are you at?
So I'm at Purdue University in West Lafayette, Indiana.
Perfect. So Purdue University. We're just talking off air that I thought that would be a school that would really push fellowships, and you're saying no just because it's close to Eli Lilly. So I figured there would be a lot of push to be more of like an industry based type of school, and you were saying that they weren't. So I was just kind of wondering, based off kind of what we talked about and what you shared also, because I noticed with your rotations you shared that you did an oncology one.
Mhm.
I believe that was in London.
Yes.
Right. So that's
Mhm.
super cool. And then also you just completed a DI rotation.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to talk to you about your rotational experiences and some of the cool opportunities you've been able to have at Purdue University College of
Yeah.
Pharmacy.
So that's the one thing. Purdue definitely has a lot of opportunities for students to grow and experience new things, but you might have to seek it out a little bit. So with the London Oncology one, Purdue offers like 4 international rotations. So we're very lucky and fortunate to have that. With the London one, I specifically went with this one because I love oncology. My favorite thing about oncology is like the personalized medicine aspect of it, like tailoring it to that specific patient. And that's what I love about oncology. So I went with that one, and plus it allowed me to do research. I have a pretty big background in research, something I enjoy, being able to present my work. And so while I was there, I was able to do research and work with patients on those floors. And so it was really cool. And I got to explore Europe. Like, who doesn't want to do that? So it was a good rotation. It was a 2-month long rotation in the summer. And so, you think P4 year, rotational year, you won't have a summer anymore. Definitely felt like I had a summer. So that was nice. And I definitely enjoyed it there. We got to go to Luxembourg, which is like one of the
Wow.
smallest countries.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we ended up there kind of by accident. But we spent a weekend there, very small city, very cool. We went to this restaurant that had the most amazing tapas I've ever had in my life. We went back 2 times while we were there that weekend,
Oh, that's how you
and
know
we
it's
had the
good.
exact same server and at the exact same table. So it was a little awkward, but they were just so good. We had to come
Mm-hmm.
back. We had
Yeah.
to.
No, if you go back again like that quick, you know it's good.
It was so good. So good.
Perfect. And then so with that, is that like a typical rotation that anybody can take, or was it more because you maybe had more of like a research background, you had to apply to it type of thing?
No, they are very open with giving students the experiences that they want. The other student that I went with had no research background. And so we both went in there together. We were able to help each other with our different projects. She was on the cardiology side though.
Mm.
And so we sort of helped each other figure out, what we're doing in the UK with this research. How do we bring this back to the US and things like that. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, you do not have to have any sort of special experience. They will ask you about it. We had like a little interview, but
Mm-hmm.
it was just are you serious about it, basically?
Got
Nothing,
it.
nothing too extensive. So yeah, it was a really great experience.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then with all the research that you did either there or within your background, will you be like going to mid-year to present it or any conferences this coming year?
Yeah, so I have been been presenting at like local conferences. So that's something that I've been doing. I will not be attending mid-year just because I'm sort of looking more towards fellowships and there
Okay.
won't be too many of those at mid-year. But I've
Mhm.
been getting a lot of like messages in my DMs on Instagram about like meeting people that I've connected with on Instagram at mid-year. And I'm like,
Yeah,
y'all, I
I
want to
bet.
go. I want to go.
And it's in
But
Vegas,
I
right?
actually,
It'll
it
be a
is in
fun
Vegas.
trip.
Yes, I'm going to Vegas actually a few weeks before that. My best
Oh
friend goes to
wow.
Vegas every year for her birthday. And so I'm like, maybe if it was somewhere else, I'd be more inclined to go. Like, your girl loves to travel, but
That's
I'm like,
tough.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I'll just be
yeah.
there 3 weeks before. So I'm like, I don't know if I could do that.
Well, you have to create some great content while you're there and just release it.
Mhm.
Like 2 weeks
Make
later.
everyone think I'm there.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. Make everybody think you're
They're
there.
like,
Like,
where
oh, we want
you
to see
at?
you. Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's what you got to do. That would be awesome. Okay. So no mid year, but you are presenting some of the research, so that's great. And with the DI rotation, what's that kind of like right now?
Yeah, so this one was really cool. It was a hybrid sort of setup. So I'm a person who I like to make my own schedule and structure it when I work best. So I
Mhm.
really, really like the format of that, being able to like structure my schedule. Like, okay, in the morning, I know I have to do like writing assignments because I can only write in the morning, but maybe some of those more like administrative tasks I can do like later in the day. So with that, I was helping teach the drug information course at Purdue, so I attended it. I was working in the labs, helping facilitate them for like the skills-based lab. Um, I mean, based off my Instagram, I love helping students, helping other people learn things, like learn with Libby. It's in the name. So working in the skills lab was something I really enjoyed this month, and definitely have been keeping academia on my radar because of it.
Yeah. So would you say that that's kind of like the career you're kind of leaning towards?
Actually, I'm leaning towards industry. Uh,
Industry. Okay.
yes, big surprise. So I have a business management minor. And so kind of looking to bridge the gap between my clinical knowledge in pharmacy and my business background, and go towards like the commercial space and industry. So
That's
yeah.
I feel like we're twins. I actually have a minor in business too. So that's interesting to know.
Yes.
Okay, so you're thinking fellowship route. Anything specific like MSL, more like marketing, because that could play part of like the business minor. Like, what are you kind of leaning
Yeah.
towards?
I'm leaning towards marketing. So currently in the midst of figuring out which programs I'm applying to and getting my application materials ready, which has been a little stressful while on rotations. But we're
I'm
doing
sure.
it. We're making it happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely excited to start this process and see where I end up for the next year.
Okay. Perfect. And then do they have like marketing based fellowships, or is it more like general where you can go ahead and maybe experience some time marketing, do a rotation there, do a rotation in a different part type of thing?
The ones I'm looking at are mostly marketing or like strategy, commercial strategy. So those are the ones that I'm looking at. I'd love to be in oncology, love the space. Um, but I'm just trying to get exposure to industry at this point. So just trying to get my foot in the door and see all that I can see within the commercial side, pharma.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, from everybody that I talk to that works in industry, they all say chemo is like the biggest thing right now. So
Mhm.
I'm sure
Yeah,
that's what you're into. They're gonna absolutely love it. I feel like it's chemo or what is it? I think it's skincare. So I think a lot of skincare meds and chemo are like the two biggest
yeah.
fields right now.
Yeah,
And
I've been seeing a lot more derm content,
yes, yes, a
even
lot
just
of
on
dermatology.
Instagram from different pharmacists and more PharmDs getting into that space. And so I've been
Yep.
thinking that's pretty interesting too. So I feel
Yeah. Yep.
like we don't learn a lot about dermatology as much. I don't know what your experience was like, but I
Yeah.
feel like we didn't have a lot about dermatology. So I think it's interesting to see PharmDs pursuing that route.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't learn that much from the like didactic component of school,
Mhm.
but during my rotations, I had a public specialty rotation, and so that I did learn quite a bit about like atopic dermatitis and different things with all the different meds that they give. I'm like blanking on them now, but um yeah, with all of those psoriatic arthritis, all of that good stuff. So it's like what it's like Xeljan's, Stellar, like all of those things, Crohn's. Yeah, just a lot of those like drugs that you never heard of that's worth like thousands of $1,000 that are on all the commercials. It was like
Yes.
what we learned. And so I was thankful for that rotation because it's like I would have never learned like about these disease
Mhm.
states and these drugs if it wasn't for that.
Yeah,
But
that's one thing I love about rotations, just the exposure that you get to
mhm,
different areas. I know people keep being surprised that I didn't do an industry track, so 2 to 3 months at a pharma company, and I'm like, well, when else would I get the time to experience all these different things?
yeah,
Besides rotations, if I plan on going the industry route, I wouldn't have the chance to come back and probably do some more clinical work and things like that. So
yeah,
taking advantage of it during this year.
yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that because I've noticed more programs, whether it's hospitals or even fellowships, like creating a more track based rotation for students, and it's like that's great if you know 100% like this is what you want to do, but if you don't and you do that, it kind of puts you in a bubble when the whole point of rotation is to not be in a bubble, is to expose you to
Yeah.
everything. And
Yes.
so I think that's kind of stripping students away from that ability to realize like, oh, I would have never known. I thought specialty was interesting, like HIV, hepatitis. Like I was like, oh, I could work managing these disease states. I never knew I was interested in that if I didn't
Mhm.
have that experience. I also had like a long-term care facility rotation. So it's like, oh, that's interesting. Like maybe I might pursue a career in this in the future. And it's so many things that you wouldn't know unless you get exposed to it. And that's the whole point of, I feel like some of the content you create is to kind of
Mhm.
expose people to different things and to kind of change the narrative on some of the things that might have been told to help them experience life from a different point of view or just gain a different perspective on things. So that way they can kind of pursue that route if that's what they want to do. So I'm glad you didn't take the industry track, and you probably listened to your gut, because I'm sure you probably wavered on it and
I
decided.
did. I was like, is this what I need to do if I'm going to
Yep.
fellowship? Should I have this experience? And I'm like, I don't, I don't need it. Like, I
Yeah.
think I'll be successful. Like, whatever's meant to be will be.
Yeah.
That's kind of my motto I live by. Whatever's meant to be will
Hmm.
be.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely is. I remember seeing that on one of your Instagram content as well. I think it was like 15. I'm blanking on it. It was like 15 something. It was a list of 15. I think you shared like five or six of them in the video.
Yeah.
Then the rest was in
Yeah.
the comments. But
Yeah. My tips
definitely.
for pharmacy school. Yeah. Everything
Yes.
happens the way it's supposed to at the end of the day.
Yep. I
So
think.
don't stress yourself too much about things that are out of your control. Because
Yeah.
guess what? It's all going to work out in the end. It always does.
Hey, keep preaching. That's why
Mhm.
we got to get you on TikTok. We got to get you on TikTok preaching like that. Um, but okay, so thank you so much for kind of sharing about you and like some of the things you've been doing. But I want to get back to IG and some of the content that you've been creating. So, what are some of the things that you were told you should do going into pharmacy school versus what you do now, and what advice would you have for like incoming students on how to maneuver that tricky situation?
Yeah. Some of the things that I was told very early on is like you need leadership and you need to find it early. And you have to start building that CV so that when you finish up the didactic courses that you are ready to go for whatever position you're applying for. And I took that and I ran with it and tried to do it all. I was working 4 jobs at one point. I had 4 different leadership positions. Like I was doing too much, doing way too much. I was not sleeping like we had mentioned. And so I realized how unsustainable that was. And so some of the things I did was I was like, okay, right now I'm prioritizing school a little too much. Like school is important. That's why I'm here at Purdue, to go to pharmacy school. But I need to take care of me first and then pharmacy school. So I had to sort of restructure my priorities. So within the past year, I've definitely been getting into working out. I love group fitness classes. That's the only way I can like get myself to go. I can't just like trust myself to go to the gym. It's not my thing. Um, so I have to sign up for a group
Yeah.
fitness class, and they have to charge me if I don't go. So money is a big motivator.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, I started reading at bedtime instead of scrolling through my phone, which is really easy when you're a content creator because you're like, I'm working
Yep.
and
I do that
I'm
a lot.
finding inspiration. And it's like, no, you're not. You're just scrolling through Instagram because your phone's right here. You need to take your
Mhm.
butt to bed. So trying to keep a book next to my bed and just read it until I get sleepy. Um, and then other things I've been doing is I also started seeing a therapist. And that
Oh,
was like a
okay.
big game changer for me. Just having that stability of someone I could like who's unbiased. She's just whatever I tell, she's open to it. And also like being my cheerleader on the side. And I
Hmm.
remember one conversation we had, she was like, you can't do all the things you're doing. I was like, yes, I can. Don't tell me I can't do it.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know my abilities. And she's
Yeah.
like, you can't do it. She's like, you need to cut something out. And I'm like, no, then I'm letting someone else down.
Hmm.
And I'm like, but I'm letting myself down, stretching myself so thin.
Yeah.
So when we put it into that perspective, I was able to have that difficult conversation and it actually went way better than I expected. So that was a good lesson for me that I can have these difficult conversations and people aren't going to be mad at you for taking care of you.
Mhm.
Like it might not be what they want to hear, but I think people understand. So
Would you say talking to the therapist kind of like pushed you towards really making these changes, or would you say something else happened first, then you sought out maybe a therapist, or you sought out reading a book, improving sleep habits? What would you, if you feel like sharing? You don't have to share if you don't
yeah,
want to.
no, I'm open to it. So I'd say that I realized what I was doing wasn't working, but I couldn't do it alone.
Hmm.
Like making these changes. So I needed that cheerleader on my side being like, hey, you can do better,
Yeah.
and treat yourself better. And so having that definitely helped me a lot. And just like that space to like vent about things that was going on. I started journaling more. which I'm someone who like my brain is running like 1,000 miles per hour and like it's just going, going, going all the time. So journaling definitely helped me get my thoughts onto paper and not feel so like busy brained all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So those are little tactics that have sort of helped me sort of slow down a bit and be able to like truly enjoy the pharmacy journey rather than just always being on the grind. So I suggest for other students, make sure your priorities are aligned in the fact that you're taking care of you first and then pharmacy school. Because if you're not taking care of you, you can't be the best student you want to be at the end of the day. So that's just my little piece of advice.
Definitely. And that's probably like the key takeaway is you summed it up in your own way, but pharmacy is a job. It's not your life.
Mm-hmm.
Your life is your responsibility. So you need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. And through taking care of yourself and doing the things that you love and enjoy and makes you happy and being happy with your life, not letting yourself down, not feeling like you're letting yourself down, and doing what you believe is right is only going to help you more when you're studying, when you're doing your pharmacy activities, when you're on rotations.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be more engaging and be more excited to show up. You're not going to be like, oh, it's another day,
Another thing, yeah.
Yep. And
I
it's like,
definitely felt that.
yeah,
It's like I was just checking boxes. I wasn't
mhm,
actually like it wasn't having a meaningful impact on me. I was just doing things to check the box that I did it. And
mhm,
so I also restructured my activities in pharmacy school too. So I was like, hey, this isn't working. I'm just doing this because it looks good. Like I'm not enjoying this. I'm not gaining much from it. I'm just doing like the bare minimum to say I did it. And so
mhm,
that's not beneficial to the organization you're in or
mhm.
yourself.
Yeah, it's definitely not. And it's also not sustainable. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you're able to realize that now. I feel like it hit people, some of the colleagues that I had like that were kind of like that. It hit them when they got into residency. Like, I can't do this anymore. It's not sustainable. And that's why it can be very taxing or very tough, because it's like, hey, maybe some of the things we were doing for the past couple of years worked, but now it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and it's tough because you don't want to let yourself down. You don't want to feel like, you're one of those, like, you're saying I can't do something. I can do it. I can accomplish anything. I set my mind to, and it's great. Like, you should have that mentality, but if it's in a healthy aspect, not if it's doing more detrimental or any harm to your health than it is benefiting it. And that's like teetering that line is always the tough thing to really identify for anybody, no matter what profession they're working in.
Mhm. That's one thing I've definitely struggled with is finding what the line is. Like, where is that line? And I always
Mm-hmm.
cross it every time. All right. All
I
right.
shouldn't laugh, but I laugh because I do that too. Like, I give
Yeah.
great advice, but I don't
Yeah.
follow it.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. I hope everyone learns from my mistakes that I
Yes,
continuously make and expect different results.
exactly. Like, learn from her content and her mistakes, please.
Yes. Yes. That
Um,
is the goal.
Perfect. And so to kind of touch upon more about your content, is there anything that you feel like you want to share about your content? Any maybe like your favorite clips for anybody to check out? Anything you might have coming up for our listeners to kind of be aware of to go check out?
Yeah. So when I originally started Learn with Libby, I had this website that had like really great templates for studying and all that sort of good stuff. But as I've sort of pivoted um to this new space, I guess, where I'm just sort of sharing my experiences and hoping that people can take away
Mhm.
some tips and tricks from it. I've revamped my website and hopefully should be done soon. Hoping to share some more blog posts on there. With a more extensive version of like my rotation experiences and just some life lessons. One of the things my mom always did growing up is whenever we had like an experience happen, she'd like write us a letter and be like life lesson number 238. And she'd like write out the experience and like what we should learn from it.
Mhm.
And so she like made binders for all of us when we like graduated high school and like gave us these binders with like all these life lessons. And so it's a really amazing thing to like go back and flip through it and just see like all the experiences we've had and little things like that and just like advice from mom. And so I kind of want to use that sort of template and sort of transform it into like a blog and like my version. So really looking forward to that, as well as I want to start some mentoring sessions. Anyone who wants to talk through anything pharmacy related, career wise, as I'm going through the process, anything I can help pre-pharmacy students do, looking to start that with this website as well and have scheduling on there.
Perfect. Do you want to drop the name for the website?
Yeah, it's just learnwithlibby.com.
Oh, perfect. Learnwithlibby.com. And I'll go ahead and make sure to put that in the show notes too, so anybody that's listening can check that out. So that's it for all the questions that I had for you. Did you have any questions for me before I let you go?
I guess as I'm moving into this new phase from student to professional, what
Mhm.
was one of the most challenging things that you dealt with in that transition period, and how'd you handle it?
It's probably the most straightforward um, response, but really stepping into the hey, I'm no longer the student, but I'm the pharmacist. So now I'm now precepting other students, maybe some people I went to school with, like that I was friends with, that were just a year below me, or precepting um, residents now that I'm a year out, precepting residents and having those conversations with pharmacists like, hey, even though I just graduated, we both have a degree. So being able to not look at a more senior pharmacist as someone who's like a superior in a way, to where it's like, okay, I don't want to correct them or change them, even though like maybe the guidelines just changed and there's new evidence that says this, but it's like I don't want to correct them. Like that's my precept, like trying to step out of that realm. So
Yeah.
that's the biggest challenge, is being able to say, hey, today I am now the pharmacist, but literally the only thing that changed is like you just got an email from whatever state you're from that says, hey, you're a pharmacist now. But you don't feel like you changed at all, right?
Yeah.
So it's
That's like
like
when
you're,
you have a birthday.
yeah, exactly, right? It's just another year. So it's like that day you're happy, but then it's like the next day it's like, oh crap. Okay, I'm the pharmacist, but you still feel like that student, or you still kind of feel like that resident. So really stepping into that world is, I would say, the most challenging thing. And then also understanding like, hey, there's expectations now, where before you can kind of fall back and like maybe fall back on the preceptor or different things like that, to where it's like, oh well, I mean, the preceptor will correct me with my note or different things like that, but now it's like it all falls on you. It's now your responsibility. You are totally responsible for this patient. So having to be able to step into that realm, I would say, is the most challenging thing. And then I believe you asked, the second part of that question was that like, what did I do to overcome it?
Hmm.
Okay, so what I did to overcome it, I did a multitude of different things, and I'm one of those that will try things until it works, or just keep trying it and hopefully one day it works. So I did a little bit of a lot of different things. So one thing I would do is kind of journal, kind of like how you mentioned, kind of sum up how the day went. If there was like a moment I feel like, okay, I should have stepped out of that student shell or out of that resident shell and approached it more as one-to-one, like pharmacist, same level type of thing. So how would I have approached that conversation? How would I start it off? How would I word it? So when the next time this scenario comes, I know right off the bat how I want to speak, or if it's like
Hmm.
a message through like Teams or whatever you're using at your hospital, like how I'm going to set the message up. I already have like a template. So I'm not spending too much time thinking about it and like psyching myself out by talking myself out of not doing it. So kind of like journaling, summing up the day. Also, just do a lot of like positive reinforcement. So just letting myself know, like, hey, I'm a competent pharmacist. I went to school for this. I put in my time. I passed an applics. I passed my board exams. I passed my state law exam. I did what I had to do. My GPA is what it is. Like, I know how much work and effort I put into this, and so I should not shy away if I believe what I'm recommending is what's best for the patient. Because at the end of the day, the patient's going to suffer the harm, not my
Hmm.
ego, right?
Yeah.
So kind of doing that, like always just like, I'm not the person to be like, I don't know if you ever watched like Insecure, like Issa Rae, like talk to themselves in the mirror. I didn't do all that, but I did like talk to myself like in my own head, kind of like envisioning things. And I feel like I hear a lot of people who are wealthy say they usually like and like vision things. They're visionaries, so they always try to envision things and kind of view how the conversation will go, how it will flow. And I believe that's what I did to help get to this point. And then once those moments start happening, you've already played out in your head. And so now is the time to just execute. So
Yeah.
just not being afraid to execute and to step up. And even to this day, I'm still nervous sometimes to do it, especially if it's like completed your residency somewhere and they've been like your preceptor for the whole year, and it's like, all right, now I'm about to butt heads because I disagree on something. And it doesn't always
Mhm.
have to be like a big disagreement or anything like
Yeah.
that, but it's just that complex of not wanting to correct the superior or the adult. That's like the toughest thing, I believe, stepping to the pharmacist realm. So really holding down your 2 feet, and whether it's with a pharmacist or a doctor too. I think a lot of times, sometimes where we're like, oh gosh, the doctor is like looking at me for the answer, like, what should we be doing? It's like, wait, what? Aren't you the one that should be calling the shots, not me? So really just kind of stepping into that professional realm, and the best way to do it would be opportunities. And the most opportunities you'll probably have is either through like a residency, a fellowship, or work. So working as much as you can in those environments where that stuff happens. So I would say that happened the most probably in like the critical care environment, where it's like a lot of times like doctors are asking there's questions, there's things where it's like you got to speak up, like,
Hmm.
step up to the plate type of thing. So kind of challenging yourself to be in uncomfortable environments is something else that I did during my residency to help prove to me like, hey, like you can do this. Like I'm not much of a writer, but I wrote an article and it got published. So it's
Yeah.
like doing like little things like that to kind of build up my self-esteem and my confidence to be like, all right, when this moment happens, like the next time it happens, I'm going to speak up and I'm going to do it.
Yeah, that's definitely good advice. I know that was something that I did when I was trying to have that difficult conversation with like letting one of my responsibilities go because I just couldn't handle it. I kind of
Mm-hmm.
like wrote out like how I wanted to talk to them, and I envisioned it going like the right way, the way I wanted it to go, and it
Mm-hmm.
definitely made me feel more comfortable and confident going into that conversation, knowing that I'd already played this through, know what I'm going to say, know how I'm going to say it. Now, like you said, you just have to execute.
Yeah.
Mhm.
100%. And I mean, if that's I feel like I hear famous people say that all the time. Like either famous people or wealthy people say it all the time. So it's like, why not try it? And maybe that won't be the thing that works for you, but maybe try writing it out, journaling, or do different things. And there's so many different tips and tricks. So if anybody's like suffering with that complex too and wondering like how do I kind of break out of that shell, feel free to reach out. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to Libby because I'm sure she's about to go through it herself. And if she hasn't already on rotation,
Mhm.
and kind of like you can provide a different perspective than me, and
Mhm.
hopefully through both of us or one of us, we can help you to get out of your shell and be the best version of you that you could possibly be.
Yeah, that's all what I'm about. Just helping people be the best version of themselves and reach their goals.
Well, thank you so much. I'm glad we're able to have at Learn with Livy on. You're definitely probably seen some of us definitely post her content on our IG, but definitely stay tuned. Check out at CapsRx podcast on IG. Every Thursday we definitely do test your knowledge Thursdays. So we kind of drop some NAPLEX related questions to help prepare you guys for the NAPLEX. And we've been posting more, so I hope you guys have been appreciating it, whether it's on LinkedIn, different infographics to help educate you all on new disease states and new literature that's been coming out. If there's any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. We would love to go through it with you. And now you also have at Learn with Libby. Just to be specific for everybody listening, it's at Learn period with period Libby on Instagram. So type that in. Her Instagram will pop up, and definitely watch some of the funny content and the great advice that she has. Some of the things that I checked out was 5 tips for virtual conferences. I remember when I did my Road to Residency series, I definitely recommended some of the same tips. So she has some great quality content out there. If you don't want to listen to an audio, you can just watch the video. It's real quick, like within 30 seconds. She's dropping a lot of gems. So Pharmacy School Essentials is another one. Day in the life of a pharmacy student, and also like the study strategies using the Picmonic. So that's something else that you all can definitely use. Yeah, I do my research. That you all can definitely use. So check out her content. Please follow her on Instagram, and push her to pivot to TikTok. Uh,
Maybe somebody can convince me.
yeah, maybe somebody can convince her. And when she gets on TikTok, definitely support her on that too as well. All right. Thank you so much, guys. We appreciate it.